Hey, welcome back to day 17 of the 51 Hudson build. Some of the bigger items are getting checked off the list, which is awesome. So a lot of the upcoming projects or things that need to be done are kind of just like smaller projects. They still take time, but at least moving forward. I want to try to start moving on to items now that will help get this thing started. I'd like to get it running, which is a little bit of a motivation, and then move on to more projects. All right, so one of the smaller projects we have to do on this, which can turn into a bigger project, is the pedals. Brake pedal's done. I think I showed that before when I had started on it. All it is the upper half of that 4th gen F body just bent in a couple places, cut and welded, and then I took another piece of another brake pedal for the length here, and then welded the actual pedal from the 4th gen onto that there. So basically just bent it up, made an extension so it's underneath the column and in a good spot for your foot to hit it. Looks a little clunky, but it'll work. So it is what it is. Next thing is going to be gas pedal. So this is out of the, not out of the Escalade because that had power pedals, but this is out of an 03 Silverado. And what I've seen people do is cut them right here and then add on to that with a regular gas pedal. So that's what I'm going to do, not reinventing the wheel. It's other people's videos are very helpful on a lot of different things because a lot of this is new to me as far as the LS stuff. So I'm going to cut this pedal right here and then see what I can do about adding maybe a Silverado gas pedal or something to this. I may have to knock the floor down lower to get full travel. I'll find out in a minute. But right now I can't use that as is. It's just too long and does not work. All right, we have a gas pedal. Turns out all I really had to do was section the original drive-by-wire pedal, and it worked out good. I was gonna use a section of a drive-by cable pedal that I had laying around, but it really didn't make a difference. Turned out I could just section the drive-by wire. So that worked out good. Again, looks a little clunky from under here, but when you're driving the car, you don't see it, so that's fine. Pedals are pretty simple. The only stuff I go by is I try to put the brake pedal directly underneath the steering column because that seems to be the most comfortable place to get it if you've got your heel sitting on the floor. And obviously not too high that you have to, do gymnastics to get on it. And gas pedal, I try to make a little bit lower than the brake pedal, and again in a spot where if you have your heel on the floor you can just move easily back and forth between the gas and the brake, and it isn't such a problem to work the darn things. It's easier in a big car. Little cars sometimes they get tight, but this will work just fine. I have, if not wide open throttle, probably 98% throttle. I may have to knock on the floor a little bit to get a little more throw, but more importantly it feels good sitting in the seat. So I'm going to check that off the list. I still have to make the hole in the firewall somewhere for the cable that's going to go to the tack module. I still got to mount the tack module. And yeah, so I'm going to check the pedals off the list and move on to the next thing. Before we get back to the next project, got to take the pups for their morning ride. You ready to go? You ready to go? I know we're not in the wind yet. Are you ready to go? Are you ready to go? You want to look? What is that? Want to be on video? You just want the wind in your face. I know. Okay, we're going. All right, tack module is mounted. Just punched a hole in the firewall for the pass-through harness. If you don't have a set of Greenlee punches and you have to punch holes in sheet metal, these are the ticket, I tell you. Make nice clean holes in sheet metal. You just drill a hole for the bolt to go through, put the bolt through with the cap, thread on the cutter, and then just tighten it down, and it punches a nice hole right in there for you. All right, tack module is wired up. That was a 1 5/8 hole for those keeping score at home. So that's all mounted up. Looks factory, which is kind of what I'm trying to do within reason. All right, let me see what's next. One more item off the list. Probably can't see it. Oh, there you can see it. I have shifter linkage. I cut up a linkage set that I don't know what it's from, and just off a card. I had it laying around. I have no idea what it's from. But I didn't video it because you're talking, you know, probably hour and a half, 2 hours of just screwing around, measuring, trimming, trim it again, weld it again, yada, yada, until I got it where it was, I think, in a good spot away from the exhaust, and it works. So now I am on to the next big project, if you call it a bigger project, which should be the exhaust. And we'll go through that. Driver's side will obviously be more work than the passenger side. But other than that, not too bad. So I know this is a short video, so maybe I'll attach this to the next day as well. But at least it was productive. Got the gas pedal finished. Got the shifter linkage finished. And oh, forgot to mention, I got the power steering finished. That was easier than thought. Actually, all I used was the Jaguar hoses. Both of them, as is. The return, I just trimmed it to attach to the LS power steering pump. And the high pressure side actually has the same fitting to go into this pump as the Jaguar, because the Jaguar had a sag and oil pump as well. And I should have realized that, because whenever I put a Jaguar front end when I was doing Gen 2 LT1 swaps, I used the Jaguar hoses, and it worked great, and it actually worked great here as well. Now, the hose was much longer than needed, so it's kind of goes to one side of the car and back over, but for free, I'll use it. All right, so day 17's done. What kind of bird is that? I have no idea. Anyway, day 17's done. Got some stuff off the list, which is cool. Not a whole lot of video of it because it's, you know, it is what it is, but you get the point. If you do one thing at a time, just one little project at a time on your car, it gets done. So you can't look at it as a, you know, I have 100 million things to do. One thing at a time, and the car gets built. It's moving forward. So I think I'm going to call it for today rather than kill myself. I'll come back, and day 18 will be next, and that's going to be the exhaust. And like I said, I'm moving along here trying to get this started. I'd like to hear this thing run again just to make sure I didn't blow it up when I change the oil pan. I didn't screw anything up. I did put the new oil filter on it. For those using these eBay oil pans, they use a PF48 filter, which is not what the trucks use. Trucks use a 46. And they have a different thread, and they are not the same filter. Whether it matters or not, I don't know, but I have read some stuff where one filter has a check valve in it versus one that doesn't, and it's in the pan on one and not on the other, so I don't know. Because I've seen people take the threaded section out of their truck pan and put it on these eBay pans so they can use a truck filter. Don't know if it's a good idea or not. But I left the eBay threaded section on this and put a PF48 on it. So anyway, it's moving along, like I said. So I will see you on the next one, which will be day 18. Have a good one. All right, time for day 18 of the 51 Hudson build. LS build, LS swap build, whatever you want to call it. It's moving forward. All right, today's going to be exhaust day. So I have the manifolds off of the Escalade, and believe it or not, I think they're going to work as is. I guess it paid to check clearances and stuff as I was building everything, because it looks like I don't even have to modify these things. I was going to cut the flanges off of my another set that I had already cut the flanges off and move them down lower, but I think they're going to work as is. I have to verify once I bolt them up. And I'm going to leave the heat shields on as well. What I did on the driver's side was there was a nub inside there I ground off, and I beat the heat shield down so it fits tighter to the manifold. And I think that's going to be enough clearance, which is good because I wanted to keep that shield, even though it's ugly. But on the driver's side, that will probably keep heat away from the steering shaft. So I think that's a good idea. Both of the drops are going to have to get cut. You can see that one I already cut it, and re-angled because they were both facing the frame, so I got to kick them in. And then it's a matter of seeing how the exhaust is going to go. Now, looking under the car, I know I'm going to come down on either side and go under the transmission cross member, and then I think I'm going to have to make a Y-pipe back here somewhere and go single pipe through that cross member out to the back, because to run duals, there's just no floor space under here to put a muffler. Mufflers that are not going to hang way down. I mean, the pipes would have to go underneath the cross members, and the car's already going to be low. So as much as I'd like to run some duals, I think for now I'm just going to run a single exhaust, and that's probably a lot more work, but it'll tuck up under the car and don't worry about hitting anything with it. So I think that'll be the plan. Of course, that can change, but I'll start up front with the manifolds. All right, driver's side manifold is on. It is super tight, but it fits. There's actually about a 1/2 inch clearance from the exhaust manifold to the steering shaft, but the heat shield sticks out a bit, so it actually looks tighter than it really is, which is fine. I don't know if it's worse to have it with no heat shield and more clearance, or leave the heat shield and have it tight. I think I'm going to try it like this and see how it looks, or see how it feels. The flange down there also is very close to the support bracket for the Heim joint, but it clears. It's not hitting it. So again, for heat transfer, I'm gonna, when we get this thing running, see what that looks like. If it looks like it's sending a lot of heat into that bracket or not, I can always redo things. But for right now, it all looks good. It clears. I use the eBay studs, stainless studs, because I just don't like the obviously the factory manifold bolts are always breaking, and I figure the studs will help save the threads. And there is the passenger side. Looks good. That went on with no issues at all. Plenty of clearance everywhere. The flange actually goes up over the frame rail, but I don't think that'll matter for the pipe, because I got to angle that anyway. So one more thing off the list. Start working on the exhaust underneath next. That took me 5 minutes to realize I didn't like that, even though it cleared. The flange is just too close. So I'm going to cut this flange off and reclock it. All right, driver's side redone because I couldn't live with it. Now I've got plenty of clearance between my support bracket and the flange. On the exhaust manifold, just had to cut it, turn it, re-weld it. I did find that when welding these manifolds, it makes a difference if you preheat. So what I did before I was going to weld, I would just heat the section up with the MAP gas for 30 seconds or whatever, get it hot, and then do the MIG weld. And it seemed like I got less cracking, or I don't say cracking, but pinging noises afterwards. Because if you just weld these cold, after you're done welding, you can hear little micro cracks happening in the weld. I mean, it's little ping sounds. So by the preheating, pretty much took care of that. So that was a good thing to do. So I'll always preheat first before welding on these manifolds. It just seemed to make a difference. I'm going to leave the exhaust like this for now. Basically, all I have are stubs off the bottom of the manifolds with the O2 sensors. See it down there. And I'm going to have to make, like I said, a Y pipe and run a single through the tunnel in that, but I'm going to continue to work on getting this running. Before I get into all that, I can start it with the exhaust like that. That's no big deal. I think the next things up to do then will be wiring. So I'm going to call it for today, take a break, take an early day, and I will see you on the next one.